Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with my first impressions of the Topping A70 Pro headphone amp and D70 Pro Sabre DAC. And I'm gonna be reviewing these as a stack because they were really meant to be together. These were loaned to me by APOS Audio for review, and the A70 Pro amp has a retail price of $499, but it looks like APOS is currently selling it for $434.13. The D70 DAC, that's the D70 Pro Sabre DAC, has a retail price of $699, currently on sale for $608. And as of filming of this video, but if you watch it, some later time, can't tell you what the price will be then. These are sale prices. So anyway, APOS does have a deal where you can get the stack plus a set of XLR balanced cables to connect the two that are right now selling for $1,052.69, and that is in US dollars. So I'm going to go over the details and specs of these, and I'll do them one at a time. I'll start with the DAC. So this is the D70 Pro Sabre DAC. It has 5 digital inputs, which includes coax, optical, Bluetooth, USB, and AES. It has 2 analog outputs, which would be RCA single-ended and XLR balanced. It has a preamp mode, and you look at it, you can see it does have a volume knob on it, which is unusual. For most DACs don't, so you can actually use either the volume knob or the remote to use this as a preamp and adjust the volume with it. And then this has 7 choices of digital roll-off filters. It has a volume memory. It has timbre fine-tuning, which I wasn't really sure what that was, and haven't really tried it yet, but you have a choice of off, valve, or transistor, which apparently makes a slight change in the sound. And then this uses a 32-bit Sabre ES9039S Pro chip, which I believe is the flagship of the Sabre line right now. It has a signal to noise ratio and a dynamic range of 133 decibels. It has a full color screen, which you can see here, which, well, you can't see, it's off, but in the screen behind me, you can see it turned on, and you have a choice of 3 different screens while you're listening to this. One is called FFT, which is basically what you see in the photo here, where it gives you a 30-band graphic, a spectrum analyzer that shows your frequencies, and yes, those do bounce up and down with the music, and it's really cool. I mean, just being able to sit there and watch that while you're listening to music. But you also have a choice of VU meters, and which, they're not real VU meters. It's done on an LCD screen, but it looks really cool. It looks like the old-fashioned yellow VU meters. Or you have a choice of just information where it tells you, your sample rates and all your different, information that you're going to want to know. And all you have to do is push the menu button, or not the menu button, the bottom button here. It has a little home signal, and you can switch between the 3 on either one. You don't have to be on the same on both units. So where did I leave off? I'm gonna jump over to the other one here, so let's jump to the amp. And this is the A70 Pro amp, and what does this have? First of all, it's a fully balanced headphone amp. It has 2 analog inputs, which would be RCA single-ended and XLR balanced, but you can get an expansion module, which will connect on the back with this connection here, and it actually adds 3 more of your XLR inputs and one more RCA, so giving you a total of 6 inputs. So I mean, that it's going to make this like, you know, like a full-size unit where you can, like a preamp or whatever, where you can hook up all kinds of things to it. So it has 2 preamp outputs, which would be RCA and XLR. It has 3 headphone outputs, which are 6.3 millimeter single-ended, 4.4 millimeter balanced, and your full-size 4-pin XLR. The headphone amp has a signal-to-noise ratio and dynamic range of 143 decibels, which is the highest I've ever seen of anything. And yes, Topping equipment does measure absolutely superb, and they just keep getting better. You know, every time Topping comes out with something new, it beats out the last version, where it measures even better. There's pretty much nothing out there that measures better than Topping equipment. The power ratings on this are outstanding. Topping claims that this amp will, into 16 ohms, will put out 17 watts per channel at 0.001% distortion, or 10 watts per channel into 32 ohms, or 1.2 watts per channel into 300 ohms. And like the other unit, you got your full color screen and your choice of either FFT, which is what you see behind me, or the VU meters, or just your information. This unit uses a collection of relays and resistors, basically a resistor ladder for the volume control. And it actually has 200 steps at 1/2 decibel at a time. The only problem with that that I've had is each revolution of the volume knob is about 10 decibels. So to go all the way from 0 to 100, you'd have to actually spin the knob like 10 times around. But fortunately, it does have a mute function. So if you just want to, you know, unplug your headphones, plug in a different pair, whatever, you don't have to turn off your source or, you know, spin the volume all the way down to 0. You can just hit mute, unplug your headphones, plug your other headphones in, and, you know, undo mute, and you're back in business. So this unit does have 2 gain settings, and both of these units do come with remotes. They're slightly different. One is set up for the DAC and the DAC functions, where you can go through your digital filters, things like that, and then the one for the amp lets you do things like, you know, change a gain setting and you know, various different amp functions. So anyway, before I get into the sound, I did want to mention the equipment I've used with this, and so far I haven't used the USB input. I've been primarily just using the digital coax input, and I'm feeding that with a Cambridge Audio CD transport. And then the primary headphones I've used so far in my first impressions of this are the Hi-Fi-Man HE1000 SE and the Hi-Fi-Man Susvara. And so getting into the sound, it's hard for me to tell you exactly where the tone balance is until I compare this to more amps and DACs that I'm familiar with. But right now, I would say the sound is pretty much neutral, the tone balance. Where Topping has had a reputation of being a little on the cool side of neutral with some of their equipment, like the A90 amp and A90 or D90 DAC were a good example of that. Exceptional clarity, but they were a little on the cool, a little bit on the dry side, a little bit sterile sounding. Okay, it seems to me that lately Topping is trying to move a little bit to the warmer side of neutral. So I can't really tell you yet if this is on the warm side of neutral or if it's just neutral. I don't have either of those, the A90 or the D90 anymore, to compare directly, but I do have the D70, the D70 MQA version, which is not the last version before this, but the one before that. And that one had a nice warm sound, so I will be comparing it to that when I do my full review. But anyway, so far all I've compared this to, and just some very brief comparisons, I've compared this to the iFi Neo IDSD, which I just got in last week, which is sitting here on my desk right now. And I did a very brief comparison to the Hi-Fi-Man EF400 combination amp DAC, just to get an idea of where this is at, if this is neutral or maybe possibly slightly on the warm side of neutral. Like I said, I can't tell you for sure if we're at neutral or slightly on the warm side, because it's not as warm as the Hi-Fi-Man EF400. Like I said, I did briefly compare them, and the Hi-Fi-Man is a little warmer, but to tell you the truth, the EF400 sounds a little grainy compared to this. And then I did compare it to the iFi Neo IDSD that's sitting behind me, and they're very similar. Okay, but I did a couple of years ago review the, this is the Neo 2, and a couple of years ago I did review the original version of the Neo, and to be honest, the Neo, even though I really like that DAC and amp, it was maybe slightly on the cool side of neutral. It was kind of a dry, sterile sound. So I don't know if this one has become warmer, because iFi lately has had a reputation of being a little bit on the warm side with most of their equipment. I recently reviewed the Pro IDSD Signature, and it was quite a bit on the warm side of neutral, had a beautiful sound. So this actually has a very similar sound as far as tone balance to the iFi behind me, but I don't really know where that one's at either right now, because I haven't done any comparison. That actually came in after this unit, so, and I haven't done my first impressions on that. So for right now, I'm just going to call this neutral as far as tone balance, and when I do my full review, I'll try to compare it to more things that I actually know where their tone balance is, and try to determine if this is possibly a little bit on the warm side of neutral. But I don't think it has that cool, dry sound of the A90 and D90 that I reviewed, like, I don't know, a year and a half ago. So anyway, the clarity and detail on this is absolutely outstanding. This thing is as clear and has resolution and detail that is second to none. This has clarity that can compete with anything I've reviewed up to this point at any price. I mean, it's just incredible, the detail coming out of this. The soundstage, it has a large soundstage, lots of width, pretty decent depth, but probably not as deep as most R2R DACs. R2R DACs, and that's why I really like R2R DACs, just tend to have a little more depth, a little more three-dimensional sound than Delta Sigma DACs usually do, which is what's in this. So the power, that's the really strong point of this amp. This thing has outstanding power. Like I said, 10 watts per channel into 32 ohms. And if you can see in the picture here, you can catch the bottom of the Hi-Fi-Man Saspara, which is known to be one of the hardest to drive, most power-hungry headphones you can buy. And this thing has plenty of power for the Saspara. No problem whatsoever. I mean, you can take the Saspara to volumes that you can't listen to. It's just too loud without losing any sound quality. In fact, the louder you get, the better that headphone sounds. And that is the one weakness of the Saspara, in my opinion, is because the more power you put into it, the better it sounds. And myself, and I'm sure other people have this problem is it's very easy to listen to this Sabre at too loud a volume. So, but anyway, as loud as you want to listen to it, this amp has enough power. It has as much power as anything I've ever reviewed. I already mentioned that I briefly compared it to the Hi-Fi Neo 2, and they do have a similar tone balance. That has really good power too, and like I said, I haven't even done my first impressions on that. That'll probably be my next video that I put out. So, and I briefly compared it to the EF400. So, and I did want to mention that I got was it yesterday? Just got the Hi-Fi Man Serenade in, which is a $999 combination amp DAC, kind of a step up from the EF400 and maybe even the EF600. And I did do a very brief comparison of this to that. And the Serenade is a little bit warmer. The Serenade probably is similar to this in clarity, but the Serenade's doing it with a little bit warmer tone balance. So that's going to be one of my primary comparisons. When I do my full review of this, I will do a more extensive comparison to the Hi-Fi, Neo 2 IDSD. I will definitely extensively compare this to the Hi-Fi Man Serenade because they're kind of in the same price range, pretty close. And then for kicks, I want to compare this to my reference stack, which is the Audio GD Master 9 and R8 MK, or yeah, it's the second version. And anyway, it's a R2R DAC, and the stack is kind of my reference that I compare everything to. And it's about 10 times bigger and about 10 times heavier and about 4 times the cost. But I think that as far as clarity and detail, I think this easily competes with it. And it's up there in the power too. So I want to see how it compares, you know. These companies keep making things that measure better and better and putting them in smaller packages and more features, and that's what another thing about this unit. It just has both of these just have so many features, that just so many things you can do with it, so many ways you can tweak the sound or what it's doing, you know, all these digital filters and everything. So anyway, oh, and I still have the Topping D70 MQA version, which was my favorite DAC under $1,000, or it has been for the last couple of years, and it has a nice, on the warm side of neutral tone balance, and I want to compare this DAC to that, and that'll give me an idea how warm this is, if this is just neutral or if it is a little bit on the warm side of neutral. But definitely an improvement though over some of the older topping stuff that definitely had a dry, sterile sound. So far I'm really enjoying this, and like I said, the detail and just it's outstanding, and like I said, plenty of power for even the Hi-Fi Man Sabre. So I'll try to get back with you in about a month or so with the full review of this, with some more extensive comparisons to some of the other equipment. And until then, I'm going to try to get my next video out as quick as I can, and that'll be this Hi-Fi Neo 2, and which is a little bit lower. I think that sells for $8.99, so it's a little bit lower in price. Doesn't have quite as much power as this, but I think it's rated at 5 watts per channel into 32 ohms, so it actually has outstanding power. Hi-Fi's advertising it as having 5 times the amount of power as the original Neo. So I'm going to be working on that for the next week, and then I've got some other new equipment in, and so I'm going to try to get several videos out in the next month or so. So I will get back to you in a week with another video, hopefully about a month with the full review of this, and Other than that, I'm going to wrap this up. So once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video helped you, please give me a thumbs up. The Headphone Experience on Facebook is up to almost 31,000 members. I think it's just keeps growing at about 30 members per day, maybe. It's unbelievable how many people are joining up, and I guess the headphone industry is really booming right now. A lot of people interested in high-end headphone equipment. So anyway, you're all welcome to join us over there, and once again, thanks for watching my video.